Today we're diving into some of the most unexplainable stories on Reddit. I wasn't expecting some of these stories to be this fucked up, and the deeper we get into this, the scarier they get. So without further ado, let's start. People who have seen something they could never explain. What was the thing? My parents had recently bought me a camera for my 12th birthday, but I had no need to use it and no particular interest in photography, so I'd store it in my bookcase, in its case for a later date. A few months later, I needed it to take pictures at an art gallery for my schoolwork. When I turned it on and opened it up, I decided to check if I had taken any photos when I received the camera, and free up anything on there to free up storage space. The photos saved on the camera I can't explain. There were about 20 photos of me on there, asleep, taken at different angles. I was tucked up in a bed and completely asleep. Some photos were close-ups of my face. Others were taken at the other side of the room. I asked my parents and sister if it were them, but they denied it. My parents were super big on privacy and would never come into my room, especially since I was a terrible sleeper and they always wanted me to get as much rest as possible instead of staying up and playing on my DS. And my sister would never come in either, as she was always fast asleep before me. I know neither of them would have done something that weird either. All of them have maintained that they haven't done it, and when it's brought up in conversation, they seem as perplexed and creeped out as I feel about it. It can't have been a burglary or someone breaking in, either, as my parents would often stay up very late, and the photos were taken just after midnight. It's been over a decade, and I still can't explain how there are photos of me on there. Dude, holy shit, that is so creepy. Who the fuck took those pictures, dude? Someone had to have fucking pranked his ass. Maybe it's, but their family's saying they didn't do it, I don't know. Someone in the comments said, "Did you show the photos to your parents? I would be so concerned if I were them." And they said, "Yeah, I did. They were horrified, but all of us were completely unable to explain how they got there. There had been no break-ins, and none of my family had done it. Completely inexplicable. It shook them up just as much as it did me." We got some creepy ghost motherfucker coming in there and getting snapshots of my boy sleeping. And the fact there was 20 photos of him on there at different angles, whoever the culprit is, they were acting like Austin Powers in there. If you guys have never seen Austin Powers, I'll put a clip up.
Okay, you're an animal. Yes, there we go. You're a tiger.
He was getting into it, so maybe this guy's misunderstood. Maybe he's an aspiring photographer and he just needed some practice, so he sneaks into people's rooms, steal their camera, and he practices photography. That could be it. You know, I'm using my big brain here to try to figure this out, but I think there's no explanation. That's actually fucking crazy. That's like a cursed ass camera. I would throw that shit out. Or I would get a camera in my room, and this would be turned into some paranormal investigation, and I would figure this shit out. I would delete all the pictures. I'd put it in a very obvious spot, so this perpetrator would try this shit again, and I would get him on camera. I would be doing some hardcore investigating. Great first story. I'm excited to see what else we got in store for the rest of this video, so let's carry on. I need to hear your wildest glitch in the Matrix story. My now husband and I knew this dude just from hanging at the same bar. His name was Trevor. He wasn't friends with anyone exactly, just sort of in the periphery. Everyone got along with him fine. He was just a little odd and quiet. Anyhow, one night he came up to my husband and I and asked us if he wanted to see something. We followed him down the street a bit, and I swear to God, he shifted his face into a different person. He held into shape for a few moments, long enough to get a good look, and then he relaxed almost, back into the person we knew again. Shortly after that, we stopped seeing him around, and no one ever heard from him again. Admittedly, we were drunk, but it was absolutely unmistakable. We both saw it, and it was one of the strangest moments of my life. They were just off their rocker, perhaps. This guy could be a shapeshifter. We need to get Sam and Dean up in here immediately. For this story, I just think they were fucked up and drunk, but that is pretty I wish I could experience these crazy, unexplainable events. I have not had many in my life, or I guess any, to be fair. It would be cool to see that, because I would just like verbally be like, what the fuck is going on? What's happening? And going back to the first story, in these situations, right, you gotta put on your investigation cap, dude. Start becoming like Inspector Gadget, Sherlock Holmes, if you will. The fact that I didn't see him again is kind of funny. It's almost like, what if he was never there? What if he was never there? That's a theory. We'll call it that, okay? Trevor was some apparition ghost, or he was a shapeshifter. I think you have to kill them. Do you kill them with silver? I don't know. I don't remember. Okay, next story. People who have seen something they can never explain. What was the thing? When I was a teenager and at my first job, I would always call my mom when I got to work to let her know I made it to work safely. So like usual, I call her, and while we are talking, some random number starts calling me, and they leave a voicemail. I tell my mom what time I'm getting off, and then we hang up. Before I head into work, I listen to the voicemail. It was the exact conversation I just had with my mom, but it sounded like she was in the other room. At the end of the voicemail, I hear my mom say bye to me, and there was a static. I was so freaked out, I called the random number that had called me, and it went to voicemail. The voicemail was one of my female coworkers saying, "You've reached so-and-so, leave a message." Even weirder is I had said coworker's number as a contact in my phone, but the number that called me was different than the one I had for her. We weren't friends, in quotations, but we had each other's numbers just in case we needed to switch shifts. We never hung out outside of work. So I walk into work all freaked out, trying to figure this out, and this coworker was at work. I told her about what happened and even showed her number that called me. She was beyond confused and was just as freaked out as I was. She didn't recognize the number. When I got home that night, I told my mom and she got spooked too. We could never explain it. Ooh, this is a good one. Every story we're gonna be doing this, we're gonna be trying to decipher. We're in Gravity Falls right now trying to figure this shit out. These unexplainable events. Ooh, hold up. I see a story in here that I'm about to fucking pivot to. Not me, but my dad. When I was younger, my biological mom and her husband kidnapped me and took off to another state. My dad said that he was finally starting to accept that he may never see me again. After nearly a year of searching, and then one day when he was on a walk, this This little girl came up to him and asked, "Are you looking for a little girl?" He looked at her confused, and she just turned around and pointed up the block at a group of kids playing and said, "She's right there." He walked closer past the girl to try to get a better look and saw me in the group. He turned around to figure out what the little girl's deal was, and she was just gone, without a trace. Turns out my biological mother and her husband had come back to visit family for whatever reason. I used to call bullshit because the story is just so insane, but throughout the years, it's the one story of my dad's that never changed. Not one detail. He's told it so many times that I can recite it word for word, and he's always so fucking awestruck when he tells me it, that I can almost see him racking his brain, searching for the most logical explanation. I was 2 to 3 when it happened, and now I'm 26. He still can't piece it all together to this day. The story starts with her getting kidnapped by her mom, and I guess that would be her stepdad, no? That's how you know she has a bad relationship with her stepdad. My mom and her husband. This may be a stretch, but perhaps we're being viewed like the Truman Show. It's like that meme with the guy with the mic in the Truman Show where he's like, "Now twist his balls and contort them." That's what this is like. This is some wholesome glitch, but it's also very creepy at the same time. I'm glad I read this one. This one was very good. Someone commented, "What happened with your biological mom? Did she get punished for kidnapping?" I remember her being gone for a little while and later found out she was in jail for that period. My whole childhood is pretty fuzzy, but I heard something about her getting caught in a stolen car with a good amount of booger sugar on her. I don't know if the car was stolen as a means to flee or if it's even connected at all, to be honest. My dad and I share a mutual distaste of any conversation involving her, other than his getting me backstory, so I just left it at that, lol. Holy shit, this mom sounds like she's cuckoo. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Wow, I'm glad this Western avocado got saved. Oh, this comment's fucking awesome. As a non-English speaker, that booger sugar really created a whole staff meeting in my brain. They make sugar out of boogers. You dumbass, it's obviously a term for bad quality sugar. That went on until the quietest staff member looked around and said, "Guys, it's cocaine." Where? I like free as a rock. He truly is free as a rock. Just fucking thoughts floating in that brain. Her and the stepdad were up to no good, is all I can say. Rattle on too long on this story. I like these ones where it's like someone comes and they help in a way, but then they're just fucking poof, gone. It's kind of cool. I like that shit. Okay, let's go. What's the creepiest thing you've ever witnessed? I was driving a friend to the train station. We had booked tickets in advance for a train at 10:50 a.m. We left the house in what we thought was plenty of time, but then we hit a bunch of traffic. We were both keeping an eye on the time really closely. There was a clock radio in the car. She had her laptop open to find the ticket code, and I had a watch as well. It was becoming more and more clear that she wasn't going to make the train. It was coming up to 10:40, and we were 10 minutes away from the train station with no traffic, and we just weren't moving. As we were getting onto the ring road, the car radio clock went blank. I tapped it a couple of times and it came back on, but it was now showing 9:45. I figured something had gone wrong with the clock, so I asked my friend what time we were on, and she took a long time to answer. So I checked my watch, and that was showing 9:45 as well. We were both really confused. We figured that there had been some sort of glitch that had somehow affected the clocks in the car, but we're convinced that when we got to the station, the clocks, etc., there would show the right time and we would be late. We arrived at what we thought was 10:58 and quickly parked and ran up to the station hoping the train was late, but all the clocks in the station were showing 9:58. We were stunned. We picked up the tickets and went to sit in the coffee shop. We now had a lot of time to wait and try to wrap our heads around what just happened. There was just no explanation at all. I lost a lot of sleep over this trying to figure out a rational explanation. I just don't have one. If the time on our laptop was also 10:40 a.m. and so was the car, that would make a little more sense because laptops shouldn't really change time like that, but I'm convinced this was like a car glitch and the car was just fucking being goofy, as cars do. I mean, this is a positive thing though. I wouldn't really question this too much. They almost missed their train and now they made it on time. That's beautiful. That's a miracle. It's a Christmas miracle. Someone said, "I have had a similar weird experience. I just decided not to question it." That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's where I got to after a couple of months of real stomach churning anxiety about it. Now about 15 years on, I lean more towards the simulation theory. Let me put my glasses on, guys. This guy's a scientific ass response. There's a lot to support simulation theory, like how we can't see out of our own universe. Quantum mechanics proving that objects aren't permanent. The Earth being comparable in our age to our universe. It's all really sus, and none of it proves there's any kind of afterlife. Whoa, he's getting deep. More than likely, we were just data. Very deep, deleted. Okay, I want to see what they said back. I currently have visual snow syndrome. This is the same person. This is the author. Basically, my vision is almost like a camera with high ISO and low light being filmed on something with a low processing speed. I get artifacts, noise, lag, low color quality. It is just too coincidental to me that these are exactly the issues digital information processing has. Editor of this video, which is me, turn on Matrix mode. We are in a simulation. You must break free. You must break free. This is definitely something I would not lose sleep over. If I gain an hour, I'd be grateful. I'd be like, fuck yeah. Father Tom is on my side. Next story. Rangers, forest workers, hunters, and other woods people of Reddit. What is your scary experience in the woods that you still can't explain? One time on a hunting trip, we were in a tree stand. When across the clearing, we see someone standing just in the middle of the field. We grabbed a scope to see what they were doing. My buddy looked at me and said it was a kid. We were in shock that a kid would be out in the middle of the Montana woods in winter. So we climbed down and started heading towards him. Well, as soon as we got about 100 yards yards away, the kid giggled and took off running the other way. I yelled and started sprinting towards my bud right behind me, but no matter how fast we ran, we couldn't catch him. When we started getting into the thick bush, we lost track of him, and all we kept hearing was this childlike giggle. That's when my buddy just turned and said, "We should go, something ain't right." We got back to the tree stand and never saw him again. Oh, is Prey a location? We stopped off in Prey and asked some people if any kids were missing, because we saw a little boy in the woods, but he ran from us. They said no one was missing from there. It was the closest town to us, so who knows? That's some creepy ass shit, dude. And this kid must be Usain Bolt fucking outrunning these grown ass men. Unless these men are just super slow, they should be more clear on their top speed. Like, what's your 100-yard dash? Either this was a real kid just fucking with him, and I love that the kid was just giggling. Like, he was like, "I'm gonna fuck with these hunters." You guys ever seen SNL sketches where Jason Momoa is in it and he's visiting his daughter and meeting the boyfriend, and the boyfriend just starts laughing. He's like, "Come and find me." I'll play a clip, but that shit's so funny. That's what I imagine this was like.
What he looks like.
Follow the little giggles.
Okay, so yeah, they were running after the kid, which is kind of fucking weird in my opinion. If you're grown-ass men, if a kid just starts running away from you, don't chase the random kid down. Like, I know maybe he's lost and he needs help, but I feel like that's just really weird. If the kid needed help, I feel like he would have asked for help. He wouldn't have giggled and ran. Oh, also, the hunting trip got me into another reference.
Dad's on a hunting trip, and he hasn't been home in a few days.
You guys catch what I'm fucking saying here? I hope there's more fucked up ones. I have so many more, guys, so should be very fun. Tall male figure with long fingernails and toenails at the edge of the bed, seen by me and my son. Anyone else seen him or know what this might be? Yeah, now this is a great title. I'm a 40-year-old married father of 3 great kids. I never had any encounters with the paranormal in the past, and am until now a skeptic. We've recently moved to the UK into a pretty house in an area we love. On one of the first nights in the new place, I awoke to a tall man standing at my wife's side of the bed, staring down at us. It was so real that I honestly thought someone had broken into the place, but oddly, I just stared back in total confusion, unable or unwilling to say anything for what felt like a couple of minutes, though it was probably much less, before he disappeared. I've since heard footsteps upstairs when no one else is home, seen figures walking into rooms as if just turning the corner into the room when I see them. The last time it happened, I followed into the room talking to it, annoyed thinking it was my wife and she was ignoring my question, only to find the room empty and my wife downstairs. Outside of the time of these occurrences happening, I haven't really thought much about it, easily dismissing it as nothing, and I haven't talked about it with anyone in any sort of detail. However, earlier this morning, my son came running into my room saying he saw a tall monster with long fingernails and toenails, and a long tongue that was trying to taste him. He has never said anything like this before, and is never afraid to be on his own. I've also never mentioned any details or anything about what I saw to him, or anyone else for that matter. To top it off, as I'm writing this, I've literally just had a knock on my bedroom door, and the door swung open with no one outside it, or even on the second floor of the house. Does anyone know anything about anything like this? Whenever I read these stories, and it's a father telling the story of him next to a loved one, like a child or his wife, for example, in this one, and they see something like this fucking long tongue fingernail toe motherfucker, hands first, questions later. That's all I know. I would look into the history of the home. Maybe there's some paranormal shit going on there. I would probably move out of that house. I've seen him stand over me in an old house here in the States. I'm so glad to be out of there. Whatever it was dark. It liked my shock and fear. It would kind of pick at me while I was in a sleep paralysis episode. I began to be desensitized to it because he would visit every night, but it wasn't until I got bored of him that he got bored of me. My roommates also experienced some things, and we never talked about it until we all moved out. He was heavy and dread-filled. It was awful. We got people seeing this dude all over the place. These comments are so fucking funny. Someone goes, "It's Scary Terry, bitch." If you guys don't get that reference, I'll put a clip up.
Welcome to your nightmare, bitch.
That's fucking awesome. Well, it sounds like you may have some sort of non-human, not of this plane, interdimensional, demonic, whatever you want to call it, entity interested in you, your family, and this house. I'm not sure these entities are even a real thing, though I would certainly believe if I experienced what you just wrote. Generally, from lore and accounts, these entities are interested in feeding on your fear. They want to scare you because your emotional response is somehow desirable to them on some psychic level. They are often attracted to locations where traumatic events occurred or to people dealing with very strong emotional difficulties. The only advice I could give is don't feed it and tell it to fuck off, but your family makes this complicated. That's what I'm saying. He's got to look into the history of the house. I feel as if I'm purchasing a home, one of the very first things I'm doing, besides making sure it's a nice place, is looking into the history. I would not want to live somewhere where anything fucked has happened. If you put certain music over scary situations, it doesn't make the situation scary anymore. Nosferatu in my bed, I'm gonna quickly open my phone. Hey Siri, can you play Pony? And I'm gonna start dancing. I'm gonna be like, you wanted a freak off. This is a freak off, and I'm gonna win. And that's kind of where it just goes from there. And no longer are you scared. You have over freaked the scare, and that's honestly what you got to do with it. Oh my god, my phone heard me from across the room, dude. I don't know if you guys could hear that. I hope my mic picked that up. That made me fucking jump because I'm reading these fucking stories. But yeah, exactly. This is the exact type of situation. I would play this song if this was happening. Like, let's say I'm in my room right now, for example. Let's paint the picture for you guys. I'm in my room. I see Nosferatu. I'd be like, game on, motherfucker. Yeah, someone's saying record something with a GoPro or a security cam. I agree. I think one of the obvious, if you're not going to move and you're hellbent on staying in this location, you need to get some security cameras so you can actually get this shit on cam. Someone said move, don't subject your children to that kind of terror. The dark beings do exist and they can harm us. Malak is listening. Who the fuck is Malak? Whoa, Malak. Ancient pagan god of child sacrifice. In the Hebrew Bible, Malak is presented as a foreign deity who is at times illegitimately given a place in Israel's worship as a result of syncretistic policies, I fucking hate that word, of certain apostate kings. The laws given to Moses by God expressly forbade the Jews to do what was done in Egypt or in Canaan. You shall not give any of your children to devote them by fire to Malak, so profane the name of your God. I heard once the same thing happened to Martin Luther King Jr. He looked at it and said, oh, it's just you, and went back to bed. They feed off fear. Fear is an energy. They did it to thrive in this dimension. I don't really believe this commenter that that's a true story, but yeah. Oh, it's just you. Yeah, for real. Honestly, if you see one of these creatures, be like, Gerald? Dude, I haven't seen you since grade school. How's the family? How's the kids? You can play it like that, or you can just do my idea and you just get freaky on them. Great unexplainable stories, guys. We've delved on this too long. Time to move on. Hikers and campers of Reddit. What is your creepiest/scariest, most paranormal experience you've encountered? My boyfriend, 3 of our friends, and I decided one night to go explore a field we had enjoyed visiting during the day. It was off a 1-lane park road, very secluded. Essentially, after crossing over a bridge, you turn into a gravel area. There was a gravel path with tall grasses on either side, that at the opposite end of the gravel had a path that went off to the left and right. Our friends went to the left, we went to the right. It was not a windy night or even a cold one, which is important. We walked about halfway down the path when we started to hear steps. They weren't our friends because we had 3, and they weren't a person because we had full view of the area all the way to our car. We figured it was an animal in the grass that had stepped over a stick until the noise continued to consistent rustling, and we both thought we heard breathing. We saw 3 distinct patterns of movement in the tall grass. We don't live in an area where nature kills us, so we figured it was some possums and took off running back down the path to meet our friends. As we came to the center where the paths meet, we split off and we don't see our friends. We continue walking, figuring we'll find them eventually. As we're on exploring a huge area, we make small talk and then hear laughing. We see 3 big black shadows about 5 feet from the entrance of the path at the end of the tall grass. Our friends are big and dressed in black. We call out to our friends, laughing at each other for getting spooked, and start walking a little faster. But then the laughter abruptly stops. The 3 distinct black shadows remain and are taller than our friends. They don't move or say anything. In fact, the closer we get to them, the bigger they are, rather than getting smaller as we get close. We both still see the shadows and not our friends. I've never held a hand so hard in my life. There was nothing anywhere that would create a shadow, let alone multiple distinct ones in this spot at night. We were 2 feet away from it and both saw the black in front of us. We both realized that as we walked through the shadow and both turned around at the same time after coming out of the shadow to see there was no difference in light once we crossed through it. We ran the rest of the way to the car to find our 3 friends wide-eyed and out of breath. Help me now please 999, open up this damn car. We filed in and it wasn't even on before we all told each other the same story. They thought we were the black shadows standing at the path laughing to freak them out, and they were calling out to us. They heard the laughing but they weren't laughing. This really bothered our friend group for a while because we weren't on drugs and we all saw the same thing. Another important note is once we split, we didn't see each other until we were all back at the car. The grass was below chest high, and while it was dark, it wasn't pitch black to the point we wouldn't have been able to see each other, especially in the center path on the way back to the car. Both groups were calling out to the other group. Point being, in theory, we should have seen or heard each other running and calling out, but we didn't. She said we both realized that as we walked through the shadow and both turned at the same time after coming out of the shadow to see there was no difference in light once we crossed through it. I'm confused what the fuck that even means, because so they saw the shadow figures, they walked through the shadow figures, and somehow there's no shadow figures? Like, what are you talking about? And were these shadows moving? These shadow beings? These shadow creatures? I have no idea. I need some more clarity on this. And also, when was this posted? Because the beauty of modern technology, 8 years ago, pull your fucking phone out, get your flashlight on. Well, first, let's back up for a second. You never split up. We've all watched Scooby-Doo. We know never to split up. I wish I could experience this. I want to like, oh, that'd be awesome. I feel as if, because I've never experienced scary, paranormal, creepy shit like this before, maybe because I don't put myself in these situations, the adrenaline rush must be fucking awesome. I can't imagine it. I feel like I would be Superman charging after these things. Not bad, not bad. All right, next one. What was your creepy, unexplainable story as a child that was confirmed by your parents to have happened? My parents and I went camping for a week when I was around 5 or 6. We were staying in a woods that had a campground, but you can set up camp anywhere inside it. My dad, brother, and I, loving to fish, wanted to camp near the stream, so we set up camp deeper into the woods where the stream was. My parents were in a tent, and my brother and I were in a tent. The second night, I needed to go to the bathroom at night, so I got up and went outside to pee. Standing on the other bank was a person just looking at me. I went to a bush, did my business, and went back to the tent to sleep. The next night, I heard some splashing in the water and looked out and saw the person there again. I went to my parents' tent, got my dad, but by the time he came out, the person was gone. The 4th night, I was too scared to sleep and kept a lookout of the zipper on the tent, and I saw this person standing on the bank again. I grabbed my flashlight and got out and shined it on him, but before I could get a better look, he ran into the forest. I yelled for my dad, and he once again didn't believe believe me. The 5th night, I begged my parents to sleep in their tent. Mom relented and let me. When they fell asleep, I snuck up to the zipper to keep an eye out. When the guy came again, I woke up my dad and showed him through the zipper. He saw the man, grabbed his gun, and woke up my mom and told us to stay. I don't remember much other than my mom being terrified. What I do remember was 5 minutes later my dad came back, we packed up and left at like 12 at night. The whole thing was so surreal. As I grew up, I thought it was a nightmare or something I saw on TV. I asked my dad about it a few years ago, and apparently it happened. What happened after he got out of the tent was, he took the flashlight and shined it on the guy, and he said it was a giant of a man who fled back into the forest. But as he stood there and swung the light around, he kept seeing movement just a little beyond his vision. So he decided for us to leave, and as we packed up, he kept the light and gun up over the stream and said he kept seeing him move around, but couldn't make out any features. Dude, that dad is badass, bro. This is what I mean when fathers need to take action. Papa was not fucking around, dude. He quickly grabbed his fucking gun, which, good. Have your gun with you if you're gonna be camping in the woods with your family. Because it's a campground, right? There's gonna be people. Maybe he's skinny dipping in the river. Maybe you're interrupting and he's butt naked and you just ruined it. But seeing them 5 nights in a row, I would be scared shitless if I was a kid seeing that. And also, the dad is super smart because they left immediately. He saw that shit and he was like, fuck no. And they got up out of there. They also said, oh yeah, very rarely have I ever seen my father scared. And to be honest, I didn't see fear in him then. But when we talked about it after I grew up, I could tell it still scares him. He said the scariest part was he didn't know what it was. His best guess was a man, but even then, all he could make out was a figure of a man, and that it was giant. He also hated himself for not believing me all the other nights, but blamed that on my active imagination at the time. Yeah, I'm telling you, dude, this is just a dude trying to skinny dip at night. Any camping in the woods stories are so creepy. Alright, next one. Yes. First responders of Reddit. What spooky / unexplainable experiences did you have while on the job? EMT from Arkansas here. I work night shift in a rural area of Arkansas, and most of our service area is mountains and forests. We received a 911 call for an older woman who had found her husband apparently dead. In our area, EMS goes to the scene first, as paramedics have protocols that allow them to confirm death in the field. The location of the call was about 55 minutes deep into the surrounding national forest, which is mostly uninhabited. We follow our GPS until we realize that the GPS no longer shows us our route. The road we are on isn't on any of the paper maps, it's not in the GPS, and we can't find it on our phones. We're in bumfuck Egypt with no GPS, nor can we make contact with dispatch or the sheriff's office on the radio. We decide to go back, but the road is so narrow, the ambulance is scraping against the sides of the trees as we try to back up. It's basically an ATV trail. We spend about half an hour with me backing up and my partner guiding me so I don't hit anything. We finally get to an area open enough to turn around and start heading back out the way we came. As we're driving, I noticed something in the road. I pointed out to my partner as I stop, and the figure moves towards us. It looks like a man dressed in all black. We sit for about half a minute, both of us staring at him, and he's staring at us. The whole time we're both going, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck. Finally, the figure turns and points down a little side road that we hadn't noticed before because it was dark and it wasn't on the GPS. We try to radio SO or dispatch for police backup and still no signal. So we decide this must be a neighbor trying to help us find the place and go down the road he pointed down. I'm hearing banjo music in my head. I'm thinking of how many different ways this could get fucky, because I've been on similar calls before where we find a crazy person that tries to stab us when we approach, or somebody who is methed out of their mind and wants to kill us and take our narcotics. We eventually roll up to a little trailer. We're now over an hour from the nearest highway, and we were later told that dispatch was flipping out trying to make contact with us because they couldn't even find our satellite tracker on the map. We slowly approach and go inside and find an elderly woman sitting in the floor next to a body. The body is the same size and build as the figure that pointed us to the house. We feel the body in its rigor mortis, meaning he's been dead at least a few hours. We console the woman for a moment and ask if she has any neighbors. She says her nearest neighbor is a house that we passed about 7 miles back the way we came. We confirm death and ask the woman if she has a telephone, and we use her landline to call the sheriff's office, get the county coroner and officers to investigate. Once they show up, we ask if they met the man we met. They say no, they just followed our tire tracks in the mud. My partner and I get the fuck out of there. We never talked about it again. I still get shivers every time we have to go into that forest. Imagine if the husband was murdered. Cause did it say how the husband died? It didn't mention how the husband was killed. I don't think so. Yeah, it says the older woman found her husband apparently dead. What if that dude killed the husband? We're gonna be conspiracy theorists for a second here. Imagine the dude was the one that killed the husband and he was escaping, and he just points to the ambulance and he's like, that's what my kill was. Go do the kill confirmed. Like in Black Ops, they gotta go confirm the kill. All right, pretty good. Let's keep going. Rangers, forest workers, hunters, and other woods people of Reddit. What is your scary experience in the woods that you still can't explain? Went for a drive in the woods in Southeast Alaska a few decades ago. It was my best friend driving, my fiance riding center seat, and me in the passenger seat of a single cab pickup. We stopped at a gas station to get snacks before heading out. It was late in the evening, so it was already dark out by the time we stopped to eat some of our snacks. The night was cool as it was late fall. So here we are chatting in the truck and eating our food parked off this long, winding dirt road to nowhere. My buddy starts talking about local legends and lore, including the Kushtaka. I was fairly ignorant to the idea and myth and thought it was all bullshit. I thought it would be funny to harass him a bit about it and push the limits of testing this Kushtaka nonsense. He was dead serious when he told me to stop, but I continued. Then I heard what sounded exactly like fingernails tapping on my window next to my head. I looked over and seen nothing, but assumed I was hearing things. I couldn't see anything because the cab light was on and it was pitch black out. A few moments passed and I hear it again. This time both my fiance fiance and friend heard it. My friend sort of nervously smiled and laughed. Then I realized I had to pee, so I jokingly told them if I get snatched up by this Kushtaka, you best come after me. I opened the door and pee by the front passenger tire, but the area felt very weird and uncomfortable. I mentioned that as I got back in. There we talked a bit more, and I realized we had pulled off unknowingly at the time we stopped near a very old small cemetery that contained frog-type headstones of the Tlingit and Haida culture in an area amongst large southeast evergreen trees. I still was not a believer and loved flipping shit to my friend, then started, yeah, well, if this Kushtaka bullshit is real, why don't they make themselves known? Come on already. No sooner had I said that, something punched or hit the front fender twice. My buddy turned ghost white and in one motion started the truck up and threw it in drive, and we were fucking gone. We got off the dirt road and back onto asphalt really quickly and stopped under a streetlight. We got out and looked. Sure enough, you could clearly see where something had hit, up high, the front right fender, when we were parked. 2 distinct marks of dirt missing. To this day, I still don't know what it was, but with every other paranormal experience I've had since that time, there's no doubt in my mind that something was trying to tell me to stop pushing it or something bad would happen. Never again did I talk shit about the Kushtaka being bullshit, and I'll never go into the woods of Southeast Alaska alone ever. What the fuck is a Kushtaka, bro? Kushtaka Lore. Let me find this out real quick in real time. The word Kushtaka, sometimes spelled Kushtaka, comes from the Tlingit people and translates roughly to land otter man. These beings are shapeshifters, usually taking the form of land otters, but able to appear as human, animal, or something disturbingly in between. Descriptions vary, but the most common portrayals include a humanoid figure covered in coarse fur, webbed hands and feet, long claws and sharp teeth, a face that flickers between otter-like and human. Dude, I've never heard of the fucking Kushtaka before. There's so many urban legends in like different states. I need to make a video on different urban legends in different states. That'd be awesome. I'm surprised they weren't able to see anything though, because they said the headlights were on. Parking in the Alaskan woods is quite a scary place to be, regardless of whether Kushtaka is real or not. And also him having to pee after hearing the nails scratch. Fuck that, dude. I would not do that. I would be like, let's get the fuck out of here, and I would go pee at the nearest like lit road or gas station or something. All right, we learned something new today. We learned what a Kushtaka is. Very nice. Time for the next story. It was white and 3 stories tall. Can anyone help me identify what I saw that night? This is the 4th time I posted this story. I really want to know what I saw. Can anyone help? First, I need to explain the house. The first floor was on stilts, high enough to make it 2nd floor worthy. The 2nd floor was 3 stories high as a result. My bedroom was on the 1st floor. My brother's was on the 2nd. Okay, the story. I was in bed for school the next day, not quite tired yet, as it was only 9:30 or something, and all of a sudden I hear the crunching of pebbles, like someone was walking on them. Our side driveway is made of pebbles. Nothing unusual. I figured dad is walking to the garage, but what I saw was definitely not my dad. It was definitely not a human being. The thing walked by my window. It took up the entire height of it. I only saw bright white as my window was closed, but this thing was unmistakably taller than my bedroom window. Keep in mind, 2 stories high. I was immediately gripped by fear, as any normal child would be. I dug deep into my head for some kind of explanation. It took me a while to fall asleep after that. I never forgot that night. I chalked it up in a dream eventually. What else could it have been? Around 9 years later, I forget how the subject of the paranormal was brought up. I mentioned seeing a tall white giant being when we lived in Illinois, Flora. That's when I learned that my brother saw it too. He was on the 2nd floor. That puts him 3 stories high. He saw its head and shoulders, long dirty gray hair, and they shared an example. It's fucking gross. Wish I didn't click that image. He doesn't remember if the shoulders had hair. He remembers now it had dirty white hair on both shoulders, about 1 to 2 inches long. He couldn't tell if it had eyes or a nose. He only saw from the back, so we don't know if it was furry or just skin past its head and shoulders. We saw the same thing at the same time on the same day. It couldn't have been a dream. I've googled possibilities like the Wendigo, Bigfoot, a storm spirit. I would show my brother the pictures. The answer is usually no or similar, but these features aren't like what I saw. You get the idea. So what was it? Considered possibilities. Bigfoot? I don't think so. Bigfoot is supposedly 7 feet tall or so, not 3 goddamn stories. A ghost? I'm not sure, but I don't think walking ghosts can crunch pebbles in a driveway, and ghosts typically appear multiple times and around haunted places. This is the only time either of us ever saw anything paranormal in our entire lives. Some sort of alien, perhaps. It appeared out of nowhere and disappeared just as quickly, but this was in the middle of a city. I had neighbors on all sides. I lived on a fucking main street, and it was only 9:30. Somebody would have seen something. A troll? I mean, maybe, but what do trolls really look like? Wendigo? Possibly. It's usually depicted as having horns. Although, as Sean Smallman notes, traditional indigenous narratives never imagine the Wendigo with antlers, but they are 15 feet tall, which very well could be tall enough to be seen by both of us. I haven't seen any mention of long hair, but who knows? Maybe I can be the one to edit the Wikipedia entry, and anyone who encounters a Wendigo risks being devoured or being turned into a Wendigo. We both survived, and last I checked, we aren't Wendigos. Another recent possibility, a storm spirit or nature spirit. Though they aren't explicitly stated to be humanoid in appearance, appearance. A tornado blew through the area soon after. That's not unusual since we were in Tornado Alley. Could it be a traveling transdimensional being that temporarily phased into our dimension, then phased back out, and it just happened to be in our side driveway? No fucking clue. It's been really bugging me. I have no explanation whatsoever. I know people who have claimed to seeing ghosts, Bigfoot, even aliens, but what I saw was something special, and apparently really fucking rare because all my research drew nothing even close. It's maddening. I guess this is the struggle of those of us who know we saw something we cannot explain. My other threads got some traction, but no one had answers, although that was years ago. Someone said, weird, my guess would be a transdimensional being or some kind of nature spirit, like a gnome but bigger obviously. Interesting. Yeah, I had no idea what that shit could be. Maybe they were just seeing shit, but they both saw it again. It's always the two witnesses that always debunks me, because if two people are seeing it, that always puts my theories down that they were just seeing shit, because I highly doubt two people were tripping balls and seeing random shit. So, I like this comment because it's talking about jinns. Let's see. In Islamic folklore, jinns fit this description. Super tall, white, and even glowing sometimes. They have their peak activity time in the night when humans are inactive, but they are also shapeshifters who live their lives like us on the same planet, but in a different dimension. As another user pointed out, interdimensional beings I heard an experience from my hometown, where a man slept in a mosque in the night, and he woke up to find a similarly tall white entity beside him. Its head was inside the mosque, while its feet were at the gate. Needless to say, the man knocked out of there. Someone said, I've never come across this description before. Where did you get it from? And the story? Not saying I think you're talking rubbish, it's just that people usually don't give us any proper description of jinn. Dude, jinn are interesting because they're depicted in so many different ways in like TV shows. Whatever the fuck it was something creepy, I don't even know. And you can't even say anything like it was just a person because they said it was like 3 stories tall. I don't know what the fuck they saw. Maybe they saw Frosty the Snowman. Debunked. We figured it out, guys. Frosty the Snowman was on a bender. Yeah, we'll call it that. Okay, moving on. Has anyone else had encounters with the Hat Man? As long as I can remember, I've seen an abnormally tall, thin shadow person wearing a top hat. I've seen him inside my house, outside, at school, and even at other people's houses. Sightings include seeing him briefly peeping out from behind the trees or buildings outside in broad daylight, and a couple times while using the restroom at school. I've only seen his feet standing outside the closed stall door. Even in the light, he has no features, just pure darkness, like a black paper cut out in the shape of a person. I mostly see him inside though. He sometimes stands behind my bedroom door and sometimes paces up and down the hallway at night. Several times while passing a mirror or other reflective surfaces, I can just barely catch a glimpse of him following closely behind me in my reflection. But when I spin around, no one is there. This isn't an everyday thing, just often enough that I can't discount it as something in my eye or catching something completely normal in my peripheral vision. And another thing is, I'm not the least bit frightened of him. He doesn't have a threatening aura at all. It's more a sense of curiosity maybe. I've read up some on the phenomena of others seeing the Hat Man, and many describe a dreadful feeling when they see him. I've never felt that, not even as a child. I was just wondering how widespread encounters are with this entity or whatever it is. Edit. I forgot to add that it has followed me to several houses whenever I've moved. I'm an adult now, and I've seen him here, but no one else in my family has ever seen him except me. I've decided to list some of the instances where I've seen him. This is by no means a complete list, just a few that I can remember off the top of my head. I clearly remember him standing against the wall behind the door in my bedroom at night. From the time I was still in a toddler bed, he would just watch me, and sometimes he would walk out the door, up the hallway, and be gone. Other times I would fall asleep while he was still standing there. I saw him outside many times as a child. I recall playing with my dog, throwing a ball towards the woods that lined our backyard, and as I watched my dog run for the ball, I would see him standing at the very edge of the trees. Another instance, I was playing in my wadding pool with a friend, about 5 to 6 years in age, and saw just his upper body poking around the side of my house watching me. I saw him in my elementary school while on the swing set during recess. Again, just his upper body peering around the side of a tree. Twice I remember using the restroom at school and seeing just his feet underneath the stall door, as if it was someone waiting for me to finish. I never heard anyone come in, and he wasn't there when I opened the door. Another time I was passing the gym and glanced in, and he was standing there in the middle of the empty gym, watching me pass by. I saw him in my friend's house standing in her doorway, watching us play with dolls. Once I came out of the bathroom in my grandmother's house, and he was standing at the end of the hall. I see him in mirrors a lot too. I've been laying in my bed reading a book, and see him walk by the open bedroom door. And a few times I've come out of the bedroom and seen him standing in my daughter's room across the hall. I specifically remember one time when I thought my daughter saw him too, but she was too young to talk. I had her in the bathtub and had half turned to reach for the baby shampoo behind me. I saw him out of the corner of my eye, and when I fully turned to face him, he slowly backed out of the room without making a sound, and almost as if he was gliding, not walking. This was in the middle of the day under a bright bathroom light. My daughter's eyes followed him as well. There are many more occurrences, but this list is long enough already. He's not scary at all, and he's never tried to interact with me or touch me. This is not sleep paralysis. I was fully awake and engaging with other people during some of these instances. Okay, there's a comment that I came to this post originally for, so we're gonna read that pans off of this whole Hat Man guy. So this might be kind of long, and I don't want to post a lot here, so it's mostly gonna be a wall of text, but anyway, I had been dating this girl and staying with her and her mother for a couple of months. She had a kind of witchy Wiccan type of vibe. She had a little altar and was always burning candles and doing spells and such. I hadn't been sleeping well for a few weeks and was usually up late playing Xbox downstairs in the living room. I started noticing little shadows running along the baseboards every night, and over a few days the intensity started to pick up. I honestly thought it might be mice as we lived in a relatively wooded area, but then I noticed them up towards towards the ceiling and other spots. I mentioned it one morning to my girlfriend. She said she had been reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead and was doing some sort of spell, but didn't get into the details. She said it was probably something to do with that. She also mentioned how one of the workers had been killed by another when the house was being built. Consequently, there was allegedly a blood stain somewhere on the foundation of the house. I honestly didn't think too much of it. My whole family has had paranormal encounters, including myself, so I figured just ignore it and eventually it'll go away. A few weeks went by and I was noticing the shadows less and less, so I had more or less forgotten about it. We were driving somewhere and happened to pass a very large military cemetery. We were about half a mile past it when I noticed shadowy forms kind of keeping pace with us. We were doing about 65 to 70, so I knew it wasn't any kind of animal running, and there were multiples, just weaving through the tree line, but never really coming into full view. I turned to my girlfriend, and she was dead white, hands clenched in the steering wheel. I say, "Do you see that? What the fuck is that?" She just shakes her head and keeps driving, looking dead ahead. I'm kind of spooked at this point, because I know she's not telling me something. Should also mention it's maybe 11 a.m. Sun is shining, not a cloud in the sky. Anyway, we run some errands and we're coming back through a busy part of town. I see this old man headed the opposite direction and ask really slowly, and he's wearing a long camel hair coat and a long houndstooth pattern scarf, and he's also wearing a trillbilly hat, which is more or less a fedora with a floppy brim. I'm looking at this dude and I turn and say, "Hey, check this dude out, he must be roasting." I see my girlfriend's face and it's dead white again. She's just staring ahead silently, mouthing something. I look back and I see the guy wandering into the street through traffic towards us. His head is low and I can't see his face. I turn again to my girlfriend, kind of laughing, like, "Yo, get your change ready." She turns to me and says, "Don't look at him." We're stuck at a light in midday traffic and I'm like, "Chill, he probably just wants $1." I look back and he's right there, hand pressed against the back driver's side window. I look into where his face should be and it's just a black void. 2 little points of round white for eyes and just teeth hanging there in darkness. I bug out, "What the fuck is that? What the hell? Do you see that?" My girlfriend screams again, "Don't look at it," and guns it. Swings the car into incoming traffic and blows the light. The whole time I'm still trying to process what I saw. I'm screaming at her, "What the fuck was that?" And she's just crying, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I honestly don't remember a lot after that. I remember trying to talk to her about it, but she refused and said, "I must have just seen something." But I know she saw it too, and to this day I still can't explain it. It wasn't the usual Hatman encounter. This was a fully formed person. I've seen shadow entities quite a few times, so I know it wasn't that. But the Hatman was the closest thing I've heard of to explain it. Someone said, "Did she ever tell you why I was coming after you guys, or what it was, or what the other things were by the cemetery? Would love to know more information about what it might have been, or what might have caused it." The poster said, "No, she refused to talk about it afterwards, and I was so shook up by it, I was happy to forget about it." I didn't even think about it for years until someone had mentioned their own paranormal encounter. Even now I don't like mentioning it. I believe these types of things lose power if you ignore them. Okay, let's go back to the first story. She's been seeing the Hatman her whole fucking life, even up until she has a child, and now he's still there creeping. Holy fuck, dude. I don't even know how to take that. That's just insane. And no one else has seen this dude besides her. The second post is even creepier, because we got a dude's girlfriend's mom is some like Wiccan witch type of lady, and then his girlfriend's also doing witchcraft, saying, "Oh, it's probably the spell I did." And that's just like a normal fucking Tuesday for them. Clearly the girlfriend knows something. She must be casting some voodoo spells. Now this dude's getting followed. She fucked her boyfriend over, that's all I know. I'd be kind of pissed that like she's not explaining it to me, because she was saying, "Don't look at him," or "Don't look at it." So clearly she knows what it is. She's just not clarifying anything. And then she goes into oncoming traffic and acts like she's trying to like get away from this thing. That's so creepy. Someone shared an experience. When I was pregnant with my first baby, we lived out in the country and the closest neighbor was 3 miles away. I used to see a man outside, about 100 feet from the house, just staring. I saw him regularly. He was just a black shadow man, but he was solid. He had a hat on and a long coat, like a western duster coat. He would just stand there and stare. I saw him outside of different windows. I felt like he wanted to take my baby, like make me lose the baby or kill him after he was born. It terrified me. After I had my baby, I never saw him again. Dude, I guess Hatman's a common occurrence, dude. Who the fuck is there like lore to this guy? Hold up. Oh, there is. There's a whole Hatman folklore. Whoa. Okay, so the Hatman is a major antagonist in urban legends, noticeably being the secondary antagonist of sleep paralysis, one of the main antagonists of nightmares, and a supporting antagonist in cryptid culture. The origins of Hatman are unknown. There have been varied reports of him by several people across the world, appearing to them in differing states of consciousness and health, including in nightmares, under sleep paralysis or deprivation, under psychotic or schizophrenic episodes, or under the influence of deliriant substances such as, I'm not even gonna attempt that word, that's a big ass word, with the final being so common that he's formed an in-joke in DPH communities. He has abilities. I actually want to see these abilities. The Hatman has been shown to be able to use Benadryl powered attacks. The main one he uses is commonly known as the Benadryl Blast. He also has access to similar abilities such as Benadryl Counter and Benadryl Time Stop. What the fuck are you talking about? Benadryl Blast? That does not sound like some scary ass attack, dude. Oh, there's a creepypasta that's called the Hatman. Dude, we're getting into some deep lore here. He is someone that people have reported accounts of, so I don't know if it's scary that he doesn't have a face or that he has just a black void. Someone said, well, that's fucking terrifying. Yeah, I'd say so. This is some horror movie type shit people are experiencing in real life. Indeed, a creepy story. Let's keep going. What is the scariest paranormal experience you have had or heard from someone you believe wouldn't lie? I've experienced experienced a few things, but only 2 stick out, as other people have had the same experience. I was in my room late at night. I heard a sound outside, like someone running a stick along the gaps of my fence. I thought it was just my neighbors, so I stuck my head out the window, and when I did, my security light that was on immediately shut off, and I saw what looked like a small child run along the fence towards my house, then disappear. I went next door to ask my neighbor about it. We live in a duplex with a shared backyard, and he looked terrified. Asked him what was up, and he said he heard some noise out back, so he went to see what it was. Our garage was a chill spot, lots of people coming and going, and he described the same thing I saw. Said he went out back, heard my window open, saw the lights go off, then a little girl ran into our house through the wall. Freaked us both out real bad. Second one was from my youth. I was about 12 years old when I saw an old man with a feather pen shuffling around my grandma's basement. I freaked out and didn't go back down there for years. I never told anyone about the ghost until like 10 years later. Me and my family were out at the land, just sitting around the fire. One of my younger cousins starts to tell a ghost story, and when he's done, my sister says, yeah, but ghosts aren't real. Good story though. My mom says ghosts are real, I've seen one. We're all, yeah right, that's bullshit. Then she describes how when she was 13, she saw an old man in grandma's basement, shuffling around holding a feathered pen. I almost pissed myself. I never told anyone about that, and she knew. She knew about the old man years before I was even born. I looked around to see if anyone could notice the look on my face. Prepared to tell anyone, haha, my mom didn't freak me out, lol, shut up. But then I saw my uncle, and he looked freaked out as well. I asked him what's up, and he said when he was like 8, he saw the old man in the basement and never told anyone. Him and my mom both started freaking out a little, realizing that they had both seen the same thing. It could be real. That's when I told him I had seen the same thing at a young age. We all sat there in silence for a few moments until my grandma said, so that's why you never did laundry. You were afraid of the basement. That's a lame excuse. We all laughed. Still freaks me out to think about though. See, these are the second, third, and fourth hand accounts that you just can't explain. Like, these stories are truly just unexplainable because the whole family basically saw this old man in the basement. And I like the grandma just pulling out a joke, saying that's why you guys didn't do the laundry. I feel like the grandma's gotta have something to do with it. Maybe that's an old lover of hers coming back to haunt the family. Oh, see, we have a theory now. We'll lead with that theory, and we'll just leave it at that for this unexplainable story. This is a good one. That's creepy as shit. Alright, moving on. What is something scary that has happened to you that you cannot explain rationally? I was going to make a throwaway, but what the hell? I'll take the risk of looking like a totally insane person. No one is going to believe me anyway. This happened when I was 17. I'm 32 now. I graduated high school and got my first apartment. Nice town. Lived by myself other than my cat, Snowball. Don't laugh, I named her when I was 8 years old. A few details before we get started. I've never been a fan of cat boxes. Worst part of being a cat owner. Shoveling tiny shit with a tiny shovel every day. So I got one of those motion-activated self-scooping deals. Left it on the back patio, ran the cord inside to power it, and left the back sliding door open big enough for her to get in and out, 5 to 6 inches. Pause. The patio was one of those 8x8 cement floored types, surrounded by a 5-foot tall wooden fence. If you looked out from my bedroom door, you'd be facing right at the sliding door with hanging blinds. Living room in between, kitchen that was off to the right. So I'm playing some 56k Counter-Strike at the computer in my room with my back facing the door. It's about midnight/1 a.m. I hear Snowball start to make one of those awful cat growling brrr noises in the back of her throat. I'm pretty locked into the game, so I tell her to knock it off, not looking at her. She keeps doing it, I tell her to shut up. I'm irritated because I'm doing well in the round. She gets loud. This is enough to break me from my gaming zone out, and I realize this is not normal. I get up from my computer to see her standing in the doorway facing out, her back to me. She is in full-on Halloween cat mode. Hair sticking straight out, her back is completely arched. She looks tense. I never seen her that way. She is still just going crazy. Hopefully you guys like that. I look out into the living room where she is facing. Nothing is amiss. There is nothing there. I look down at her to say something to the effect of, what's the matter? She makes this insane sound, like a combination of a hiss, growl, spit, and she starts to take a few steps backwards. This is when a tiny creature runs out of the fucking kitchen, on 2 legs wearing a tattered piece of cloth or a bag. It looked like a little cloak. It's maybe a foot and a half tall. It's a real life fucking jump scare. The cat jumps backwards about 3 feet in the air. I jump. I glance down at her as she does this, so quickly look back up. I hear her land with a crash behind me and run. I am fixated on the thing. It is moving, but it's like time is slowed down. I'm watching these things happen, but everything is so fast. It runs out the back door through the blinds with the crash at speeds that don't even seem natural. The blinds are swinging. My heart is pounding. I stand there dumbfounded. What the hell did I just see? I'm staring at the back patio door, at the swinging blinds. I'm not moving. My eyes start to notice that something is wrong. All the blinds are softly swinging except the 2 closest to the opening. I see they're making an inverted V. I look at them and follow them down to the very bottom, and between them I see it. Its head is poking through the blinds staring at me. It has yellow eyes and a face that I can only describe as bestial. Gray, greenish, blackish skin. At this point, a singular loud thought fills my mind. You aren't supposed to see this. And at the conclusion of that, every one of my hanging blinds shoots upwards and outward. I jump again and my heart tries to blast out of my chest like I'm fucking Cape Canaveral. Some of them hitting the ceiling. A few fall off. It's a loud racket. The rest are swinging all over the place. I look at the place where its face was and it's gone. I beeline for the kitchen. Refrigerator door is open. I open a drawer and grab the biggest knife I see. I am shaking. Adrenaline like I have never experienced before. I rush to the sliding door and slam it shut. It won't close. I open it a bit and slam it back shut. Still won't close. What the fuck? I am completely stupid. The cat box cord. I crouch down, brandishing this knife like a complete idiot, looking out the glass door, waiting waiting for this thing to launch at my face. I'm shaking. I reach across myself with my left hand to the power plug on the wall, to the right as I stare out, waiting to stab anything that approaches. I fumble to get it unplugged, my hands won't do anything right. I finally get the cord unplugged and I open the door real quick to throw the cord outside. I throw it like a spaz and it hits the wall and the side of the door and falls down. Still inside, fuck. I pick it up and try again, this time it lands outside. I hear a scratching sound and my eyes dart up. I see two tiny awful fucking hands holding onto the fence. Clawed, gnarly, humanoid hands. This fucking thing climbed down feet first, hanging from the fence. It would have been slightly comical if it wasn't so fucking terrifying. The hands let go and I hear it land in the bushes outside the fence, and I hear fast footsteps as it runs off. I slam the door shut and lock it. This is completely true. I've heard it all. It was a raccoon. It was a cat with the mange trapped in a paper bag. It was neither of those things. After the event, I started researching like a madman. Closest thing I found was in a book I found at the library called Fairies, which is like an art book featuring all different types of Irish folklore creatures. I don't live in Ireland. I live in the US on the West Coast. You don't believe this story and I don't blame you. It sounds ridiculous. You probably shouldn't believe it. I absolutely hate subreddit no sleep. I think it's stupid. I hate bullshit paranormal stories, believe it or not. I am a skeptic. I believe all people that have experienced something strange or believe in the paranormal should be skeptic. I enjoy debunking paranormal videos and pictures. I want the truth. Was I hallucinating? It's entirely possible I had an extreme and sudden hallucination. It's not unheard of. This event had a huge impact on my life and completely affected the way I view the world, the paranormal, religion, everything. Shrug. See, I like that this guy says that he is skeptical of all this stuff, so that makes me want to believe his story even more. I don't know what fairies are. I don't know much about Irish folklore. Let's see. Wait, let's do fairies, Irish folklore. This is turning into a video about folklore, dude. I'm seeing fairies. Maybe he misspelled it and he meant to say, but fairies are like fucking winged creatures, no? That's nothing like he was describing. Let me try to, fairies. I spelled it right. What the fuck? Where are fairies? Yeah, I'm not seeing this in Irish folklore. The fairies. The fairies. Yeah, I'm just seeing fairies. It's probably all those hours on Counter-Strike, dude. Finally doing good and then this shit happens. Just a stroke of bad luck, my friend. But the cat was also reacting to the incident, so there had to have been something going on. And usually aren't animals quite good at like noticing supernatural shit? I think I heard before, maybe this is false or it's a myth. Is it dogs can see ghosts? Is that what they say? Something like that? Because dogs bark at random shit in the house. This is exactly what I pictured when he first said the creature before we mentioned the color of it. This person said, kind of drunk, but I'm picturing Dobby the house elf raiding your fridge. That's exactly what I pictured when I was reading this. I was gonna say that until he mentioned the coloring and the eyes and stuff. That's awesome. People are on the same page as me. Yeah, someone said, holy shit, man, reading this made my heart race. I would have pissed myself if I was in your shoes. Oh, he said, oh, wait, here's the book. Oh, and the research continues, dude. Hold up. We're gonna find this shit. I want to see what fairies are so I can show you guys a picture. It's by Brian Fraud. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm just gonna say fairies. Fairies. Fairies is a landmark 1978 illustrated compendium of fairy mythology, legends, and folklore created by English artist Brian Fraud and illustrator Alan Lee, edited by David Larkin. Okay, that doesn't really give me much fucking information. There's a I fucking hate Wikipedia. See, this looks nothing like what this guy was describing though. These fairies. Oh wait, maybe this. Oh, perhaps this is what this guy was seeing. Let me share this image that I see. Is that what this dude saw? But if you go back to the description of what he said, hold up. Gray, greenish, blackish skin. Yeah, that doesn't really look like gray, greenish, blackish skin, huh? That's interesting. Also, these depictions of what he's saying in this book don't sound anything like what he's describing. Oh wait, here we go. This is way better. Okay, I found an even better picture. I'm gonna share this one. Maybe that's what he saw? That does look like Dobby the fucking elf. That's a great representation. Nice. So bro saw Dobby the elf. Maybe this is after he gets the sock from Harry Potter and he gets free. You freed me. Something like that. Whatever he says. Is there any more lore on this stuff? Dude, there's so many creatures in like folklore. It's so interesting. Alright, well I guess we found what he was talking about. Yeah, that's fucked, dude. Fuck all that noise. I'd be out that bitch. I'm gonna stick with the he just Counter-Striked out. Maybe too many hours on the game. Too many hours on the Game Boy. On the PC, man. Go touch grass or something like that, right? That is scary as fuck though. Good story. How do you pronounce fairies? Pronunciation. Alright guys, listen to Google real quick.
Fairy.
So it essentially is just fucking fairy. What a weird way to spell it. I like how we're getting into like the pronunciation when we're supposed to be talking about unexplainable stories on Reddit. Quite a good story. We'll go to the next. Okay, this is another story from the same exact one we were on. What is something scary that has happened to you that you cannot explain rationally? Guess I can repost this one again. Dad died, needed to clear my head. Went on a solo trip to a cabin up in Oregon with my dog. Saw some footprints in the snow, heard steps on the roof, and saw something staring at me from the trees. I've had a couple of weird things happen. My Pop-Tart incident still trips me out, but I think I can write that one off as maybe someone messing with me. Alright, this is some lore we have no fucking idea what he's talking about. Let's just go to the story. Here you go. I'll be the first to say that all this stuff could have taken place in my head. The mind is a freaky thing and can play some pretty trippy tricks on you. Sorry for the length. Whenever I was scared as a kid, my dad had always told me that in life, you should not be scared of ghosts. Fear the living because they can actually hurt you. In my late teenage years, I came into some money after my father committed suicide, and I received an inheritance from him. At the time of my dad's passing, he and my mom owned a cabin up in Oregon by Mount Bachelor. The cabin had been put up for sale since my mom could no longer afford the payments, and renting it out was not covering the payments either. The cabin was set to go on the market for sale in less than a month, and was in the process of finalizing all the paperwork with the realtor and the lawyer. So for that month's time, the cabin was not going to be rented out any longer, and was going to be vacant. I saw this as a chance to get away for a while and clear my head in light of all the things going on. I quit work, packed up my snowboarding gear, grabbed my dog, and headed up in my dad's car that he had willed to me to the cabin. Now this was our family cabin that my parents rented out throughout the year when we were not using it. I had the keys to the cabin and also had the code for the alarms, so I did not feel the need to stop at the rental management company and advise them of my stay. This has nothing to do with the coming story, but felt the need to mention it anyway. My first 2 days at the cabin were normal, and nothing out of the unusual happened. Spent my days playing with my dog in the snow, snowboarding, and the evenings playing PlayStation or listening to music, drinking and smoking out on the balcony. Had already stocked up on food, cigarettes, and liquor, so I was pretty much shut inside from the occasional out to hit the slopes, with my dog as company and DVD/PlayStation as entertainment. I was quite content and started to feel relaxed after all the drama that had preceded my outing. The cabin itself has 2 stories. Bottom story had the living room and a side guest bedroom along with a small kitchen. Upstairs had another 2 rooms along with a walkout balcony attached to the master bedroom. Most of my time there was spent either in the living room, kitchen, or master bedroom. I never ventured into the other rooms and always kept the doors leading into them shut. Open doors to dark rooms always creep me out. Anyhow, the 3rd day came around and I was going through my usual routine of playing with my dog. His name was Midnight, by the way, and he also since passed. Rest in peace, doggo. Playing games and watching DVDs. That day it was pretty heavy snowfall, so I did not feel like trekking down the hill to the main road in my car and decided to stay in. That's when things started getting a bit weird. In our area, there were only 2 other cabins adjacent to ours, maybe a block away from each other. All other cabins aside from these 2 were around a mile away from ours. Surrounding us was mostly forest and very tall pine trees. Tall. This is important later on. Both these cabins were empty, and from the past couple of days, I knew that no one was currently staying there. Gave enough background, and I'm going to jump to the weirdness. Around midday while outside with my dog, I noticed what looked like footprints in the snow around the area surrounding our cabin. It was still snowing, so the footprints looked semi-fresh, like someone had been there in the last 20 to 30 minutes before me. I thought that maybe someone was staying in the cabin near me that I may not have noticed. Maybe they were shut-ins like me. Alright, whatever. The prints lead away from the cabin, and they disappeared in the snow towards the denser part of the trees. Disregarded the footprints and went back inside. Nighttime came around and decided to head to bed. My dog Midnight was laying on the bed with me when I noticed his ears perk up to a standstill listening position. This was followed by him quickly jumping off the bed and running downstairs to the living room. I lay in bed and stayed silent, and could hear him moving downstairs back and forth. After around 5 minutes, he ran back upstairs to me and started to do his doggy dance for the sign he had to pee, or that he wanted to go outside. Shit, well fine. I can't say no to him, so we both went downstairs to the outside driveway for him to do his thing. Only he didn't want to pee. As soon as we were outside, he started to pull on his leash, trying to drag me to where he wanted to go. He kept looking in the dense part of the trees where the prints had been earlier, but he also kept sniffing the side of the house and looking up towards the roof. After he figured out that I was not going to go where he wanted, he sat himself down and just stared into the darkness. A bit unusual for him, but alright. Maybe there are forest animals out there that he wants to chase down. But fuck this. Did not want to chance anything, so I pulled him back inside and we both headed back upstairs. Around a half hour later, I was lying in bed when I heard what sounded like hooves walking on my roof. It was only a series of around 6 steps, and I rationalized that it could be a pine cone falling from a tree onto the roof, or maybe a kind-hearted forest animal running around. But here's the thing. The steps seemed to be spaced apart like a man-length stride, so it was really freaking me out. Midnight also heard the noise and was quick to run to the balcony screen door, expecting for me to let him out. Alright, you know what? I'm a tough guy, and at the time considered myself to be fairly well built and strong enough to handle myself. So I grabbed my coat and shoes along with my cigarettes and flashlight and went out into the balcony. Fuck it, right? As soon as I was outside, I lit up my cigarette and started canvassing the roof with my light. Nothing there, and the snow on top was undistributed. Weird. Must have been all my head. What about Midnight hearing the noise? Maybe he was feeding off my fear or paranoia. I started to calm down and relax again. My eyes started to adjust to the darkness, and I kept smoking and just staring at the stars and trees next to our cabin. That's when I saw it. In a tree that was a little taller than our cabin and around 20 feet from the balcony, I saw what looked like a man crouched in a squatting position in between 2 branches. It was squatted on one branch and its arms were extended above its head, holding onto the branch above it. Fuck me. What the fuck is that? I wasn't sure if I was really seeing this thing and stood there just staring and sat there motionless. I noticed Midnight stand up and start pacing behind me and lightly barking at the same time. The thing still did not move. I put my cigarette out and was debating on shining the light in the thing's direction, but something in my head kept screaming not to. So I walked backwards to the inside of the room and pulled Midnight with me. Once inside, I locked the door and shined the light in the thing's direction, but nothing was there. I shut the curtains to the screen door and retreated back to bed. But later on in the night, I heard light tapping at the screen door, like someone was tapping on the glass with their fingers. It was consistent and did not stop for nearly an hour. Midnight seemed to stare at the door, but he wouldn't go near it anymore. The weirdest part was that I had a feeling like someone was inviting me to open the door, but at the same time, I kept hearing my dad's voice in my head, telling me to stay in bed and not do it. I listened to my dad's voice and just stayed where I was. Passed out eventually and woke up in the morning and everything was normal. The rest of the week I spent there was not eventful, and nothing else out of the ordinary happened. I totally admit that it could have all been in my head. A lot of stuff going on at the time, so I was pretty fucked up from all the drama, but still bugs me even now after a lot of time has passed. I am married now and I have 2 young kids, but I am still partially afraid of the dark. Sounds weird to write that out, but oh well. He's got balls of steel staying there. He stayed there for the rest of the week after this happened. I don't know what I would have left. I feel like that's the rational thing to do. I'm surprised when he saw this creature in the trees, he didn't flash a light. Maybe he was just scared shitless, which I understand. It's just him and his dog. But still, if you're alone out there, you kind of got to know what you're dealing with. You can't just ignore strange things happening. And I think what he said I was pretty fucked up from all the drama. Maybe that's part of it. He was just fucking, maybe he was depressed and sad and he was seeing shit. And the fact that he's alone out there and all the other cabins, at least the 2 cabins that are by his cabin, are vacant and no one's out there. He's just alone. That's what makes it even worse. Like, it's not like you're in a populated city. You're out in the wilderness in a cabin and it's snowing. That's some until dawn shit. That's some scary shit, dude. Fuck that. Yeah, someone said you had that happen to you and you stayed there for the rest of the week. Shit, I would have been out of there in the morning. And only because I wouldn't fancy being alone in a snowy forest in the middle of the night, especially that. That's what I'm saying, dude. Bro's got big old balls doing that shit. Props to him. And also, I feel as if you're going to this, you gotta be armed, dude. If I was out there alone, like, I know it's your family's cabin, but you never know. If you're going alone with your dog, I know your dog can probably do some damage, but bring a gun with you or something. Or at least like a sword. Someone said fucking satyr demon mixed with a vampire who must be invited to enter. That's the picture you just painted for me. What's a satyr demon? I should probably not click random links on Reddit. Someone said, I remember reading your story a long time ago, but I read it again anyway. Sounds like the Reiki. This is definitely one of the scarier things I've ever read. I'm gonna regret asking, but what's the Reiki? Put the Reiki into Google image search. Rather spoopy. Spoopy indeed. Alright, we're gonna do this. Dude, this video is just a bunch of fucking people trying to guess with folklore creatures of what this thing is. Holy fuck, dude. The Reiki is scary as shit. The Reiki's a pretty good guess, I would say. Someone said, sounds like you have a Wendigo problem. Fucking skinwalkers, man. Yeah, no, people are too well versed in this whole folklore stuff. I gotta do a folklore creature. American folklore creatures? I should probably do a video on that. That'd be fun. I probably shit my pants in almost all of these, so now we can add another to the list. That's lovely. Let's move on to the last and final story. It'll likely be a longer one, so if you made it this far, be prepared for another long story. And if you did make it this far, that means you like listening to me read Reddit stories, which I appreciate. And if you guys are enjoying this, like the video and comment down below if I should do more Reddit videos or what videos you guys like to see. I would love to do a folklore creature video after reading all these. What is the most unexplained, supernatural, or paranormal event you've ever witnessed? Okay, this is a longer story as I'm late to the game, so I doubt anyone will take the time to read this. Joke's on you, buddy. We are. Plus, I had to make a new account, so that too will cause everyone to push past what I post. Alright, this fucking grammar. However, if anyone else here has seen the video I'm about to describe and experienced anything, please let me know. Give it a little more oomph because you put all caps. Okay, so 10 years ago, I was living in a shared living situation. Not a hippie thing or a frat thing, it's just where life landed me. And I shared a large bedroom in a huge older home in the Pacific Northwest. If anyone's been out there, it's one of the woodsy modernism houses built in the 60s, 70s. And if you're from the Pacific Northwest, we all know the type I'm talking about. Anyways, I had a computer on the side of my room, as after getting off work, I would come home usually about, dude, this guy's grammar is fucking horrible. I'm just gonna interpret some of this stuff and just read it how it should be wrote. I would come home usually a bit before my little roommate, the dude I literally shared a single room with, and would jump on the web and watch adult entertainment. Anyways, not a lot of privacy in a shared room, so I had to make the most of my private time. One day though, I came home especially early. After taking care of business, I began to look up scary videos. Wait, hold up. So he said after, we gotta do a quick pause. He said after taking care of business. Is he talking about adult entertainment? So after he beat his shit, now he's looking up scary videos? This dude's a freak. Confirmed. Let's continue with the story. At this time in my life, I developed a strange fascination with all things terrifying. I read Jay's Journal, a bunch of older Stephen King. I would go to the local obscure video rental shop and check out foreign horror films, underground shit. Dark, scary, I don't know why. So this particular day, I found myself ping-ponging through a shit ton of clickbait, different sites, etc. Ghost videos, unexplained phenomena, demons on tape, etc. Well, I must have watched about 50 of the startle scare videos and 100 ghost videos, most of which were clearly staged, some done better than others. Then I came across one video. It said how to summon the devil or something. I was curious, so I picked it. It started out with the classic black screen with white letters, explaining that for this video to work, I should stare at the screen and not look away. Put in headphones, try not to blink, blah blah blah, the works. So I did. I was expecting it to be a jump scare video at the end, so I was a little anxious watching it, but it wasn't. It was a bunch of random, albeit clearly satanic symbols, pictures and images flashing on the screen in rapid succession. They too were a simple black and white, a goat's head I think, a Baphomet, some Hebrew letters, etc. All the while I heard this strange sounding noise in the headphones, sounded like an old recording being spun backwards. It was over in less than maybe 2 minutes, and concluded with more script on the screen explaining I had just watched a spell video. The images were part of the casting, and the noise was the Lord's Prayer backwards. Then it said something like, sleep with one eye open tonight, for his advocate or assistant or something like that is not with you. Then it said, you'll see what we mean. Lame. That's all I thought. In fact, my roommate roommate got home and asked what I was doing. So I told him I'm looking up scary videos. He said, I don't know why you're so into that bullshit. You know it's all fake or something on those lines. I said, yeah, I know. Just think it's fun or whatever. So I want to make it clear that of the hours of videos I watched that day, this one was the least exceptional. In fact, as I looked through more videos, I forgot about that one. Truly, I did. I went out to dinner with this girl. I'm just gonna erase that part like he didn't even write it. And got into bed around 11 o'clock. Pretty typical night for a 20-year-old dude who worked on cards for a living. Nothing unusual or out of the ordinary. No Ouija boards, no tarot cards, none of that typical spooky shit happened. So fast forward, I go to bed. I had an old twin mattress I had used in high school, and it was up against the opposite wall of my roomie's queen mattress. Dave, my roomie, was a loud snorer and would sometimes wake me up, but I had gotten pretty used to it. Anyways, I woke up from a dreamless sleep, laying on my stomach in bed, but I was wide awake. I thought it was strange. As I looked at my alarm clock next to the bed, the numbers 313 glowing at me. I remember that vividly. I also remember glancing over at Dave laying there and hearing his snoring. I wasn't scared or frightened or anything. I was just annoyed I had woken up when I had to be up for work in like 2 hours. I had only barely lifted my head from the pillow to glance at Dave, and I plopped it back down to try to go back to sleep. Here's where shit got weird. So my comforter wasn't tucked in on one side of the bed, the side that was pushed against the wall. Sometimes it would kind of slide a bit if too much fell off the side, you know? Well, my comforter started to slide off of me. So with my eyes still closed, I tried to grab it with my hands to yank it back into place before it fell off my body. That's when it hit me. I went from no fear to pure uncut fear in less than a heartbeat. I just got chills writing this. It wasn't sliding, it was being pulled. I'm not fucking joking. Fucking pulled. My skin got shivers all over and all my hair stood up on end as I froze. I had realized the blanket was being pulled and something grabbed my feet and pulled me to the end of my bed. I grabbed my mattress and clenched my teeth and eyes only to be instantly released. I opened my eyes and the clock read 3:14. Dave's snoring remained unbroken and steady, but I was in the original position I had woken in. My comforter on me like nothing happened. I'm no genius, but I am rational. The first thought as my chill subsided were of the How to Summon Satan video. I don't know why. It's like I just knew it was connected. My next more rational thought was, that was just a nightmare, dude. And despite feeling a very negative energy in the room, I brushed it off. I talked myself out of the experience, so I tried to go back to sleep, even though I was pretty shaken and half tempted to wake up Dave. But what could I say? We were both blue-collar workers. He did concrete construction for Christ's sake. What do I tell a guy who lost 2 fingers at work and his front tooth in a fist fight? Hey man, I had a super scary dream. Can you make me feel better? Boo fucking who? No way. So I tossed and turned for what felt like an hour and was pretty sure I wasn't sleeping again, but I did. I awoke again on my stomach to the sound of Dave snoring. No sooner did I open my eyes than my comforter started to slide. I knew what was coming next. I grabbed both sides of my mattress and grinded my teeth so hard I chipped one, as something now grabbed me by my shoulders, picked me up and slammed me down on the bed. So hard my nose started bleeding. The crash was so loud Dave woke up and rolled over. What the fuck are you doing? He asked, annoyed and angry. I broke down. I told him about the video, about the previous experience, and asked if he would pray with me. I'm not religious, but I was legitimately terrified. He stopped me mid-prayer and asked if I felt that. As he said that, both of our hair stood up on end and we got the chills, nightmare chills. We all know them. And then he said, I don't know what you did, but I want no part of it. He took his pillow and blanket and left me there, alone. I don't know why I didn't leave too. The room was huge and dark and cold, and I was just too scared to leave, or even move, I guess. I didn't sleep until dawn, and for the next couple of weeks, I felt plagued by waves of fear and panic attacks. It finally began to subside a month later. It felt like I was being watched all the time and paranoid, cost me my relationship with my girlfriend. She said I got weird and was always negative. That was 10 years ago. The following 7 years, I'd recount the story to friends or whatever. When Paranormal Activity came out and blanket was pulled off the girl, I told my date about it, but it went from real event to a memory. I hate the way this dude writes. I rationalized it away as a night terror until 3 years ago I met a guy at an outdoor concert. No one I went with knew this story. So it's late and everyone is exchanging ghost stories. All of a sudden this kid starts shaking and begins to tell a story about him and his friend had seen a video one night. He proceeds to describe the same video, black and white imagery, the Lord's Prayer backwards, and then he says what really caught my attention, and now my hairs are on end along with his voice trembling as he tells us that at 3:13 in the morning he and his friend are playing video games when the doorknob to the room they're in begins to turn. They both freeze and get mad crazy chills. As the door slowly opens, they see a large, very large, too tall to fit in the doorway shadowy figure bending down looking at them with a glowing red eye. Yup, nightmare fuel. Everyone begins to laugh at him and tease him. Red eye, they all say? If only demons weren't so Hollywood cliche. My girlfriend says to me she didn't know the story of what had happened to me 7 years prior. That's when she noticed I was sweating and my hairs were on end. She tried to whisper if I was okay and to reassure me it was only a story. No, I said, it isn't. I looked at this kid and all I said was, I believe you. Since seeing that video, I struggled with harmful self-destructive behaviors, addiction, deception, loneliness. Can't hold a job. It's gotten a lot better, but for this kid, and here's where it gets weirder still, he was arrested for murder a year after telling us that story. So if anyone has seen or experienced something like this, please let me know. I'm not crazy or unbalanced. That kid convinced me that whatever it was something. Was it a subliminal message that made us both go nuts? I don't know, but that's my unexplainable story. Thanks for reading, and if you've seen it, please let me know your experiences. Yeah, dude, maybe don't watch a video about how to summon Satan. That's fucking crazy, first off. And second off, this dude just seems like he's into this creepy shit. You're watching adult videos, then you're going to watching videos on how to summon summon Satan, you're calling this shit on yourself. There's actually a comment with a pretty long story about something similar. Let's read what this other commenter said. My twin brother saw something similar in 2005. He decided to kill himself in 2006 on June 6th, 3 days after his 16th birthday. That year was hell. We live in a small ranch, so we had a shared room for our whole lives. However, a few weeks after he saw the video, he decided he wanted to move to the basement, which is really weird because we were inseparable. I remember the night it all started. I was there. I had come home from a swimming meet, and he was in our room on our laptop talking to some friends on MSN. Everything seemed normal. We talked a bit and went to bed. I'm not sure what time it was, but I woke up to the sound of heavy panting. It was my brother. He was over by a window, ducked under it with the blinds pulled up so that the moonlight was coming in. I said something to the effect of, "What the fuck are you doing?" But he didn't answer. That is when I saw something happen to the moonlight. It is really hard to describe, but something stopped it while not stopping it. Like the moonlight was reaching the foot of my bed 1 second, and the next it was only reaching a few feet into the room. So in a split second, the light moved over 10 inches. I could barely make out the silhouette of my brother beneath the window, but I heard him start to whisper, "No, no, 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 no." I got up and went for the light switch across the room. By the time I got there, I heard a loud bang and a horrible gasp. I turned the light on and turned around to see my brother face first on the carpet, like 2 feet away from me, which is around 20 inches from the window. He sort of half rolled over and I could see blood, so I freaked out. I was trying to get him to talk, but he was just writhing in pain. Finally, I heard short, shallow breaths, which quickly turned into wails. He hadn't cried in what seemed like years, but he was crying uncontrollably for about 20 minutes. Woke up everyone in the house. He was bleeding from the face from a horrible rug burn. He told us he didn't remember what happened and just woke up on the floor. I would find out later that that was not true. My mom treated his face and ended up trying to sleep on the couch. I was kind of freaked out by what happened, but I fell back to sleep around 5 a.m. I would have fell asleep much quicker, but I noticed the moonlight was now beaming down just short of my bed, so it changed direction twice in about an hour or so. The next part is hard for me, and I'm at work, so I'll tell you later. Okay, and he did a follow-up. This was 11 years ago, by the way. So this is continued from earlier. My brother didn't go to school the next 3 days or so. He said it was because of his face being messed up, but I soon found out that he was sleeping all day. Every night I fell asleep, he would still be awake with the laptop in his bed. When I woke up, he'd usually be out on the couch. Then the next weekend, I come home to find that his bed wasn't in my room. My family went to an orchestra concert and out to eat afterward. My brother stayed home because he didn't want to go. No word to me, my parents, nor my sister. He just got up and moved all of his shit into the unfinished basement. Naturally, we confronted him about it. He was standoffish and only gave like 5-word sentence replies. He wouldn't look me in the eye, like he was ashamed. Basically, he said we'd be going to different colleges in a few years, so he wanted to become independent. My parents bought it as some sort of phase and gave him space, but I knew something was fucked up. He had become like a stranger, and when I asked him what I did to make him so mad at me, he told me nothing. This is the way things are now, and just walked away. I was pissed. He was being such a dick and for no good reason. Things were awkward for the next 11 months or so. We only talked when necessary and never about anything fun. We didn't really hang out, his grades were shit, and he looked bad and stopped caring for himself very much. I'm sure people at school thought he was on drugs. If he was, no one ever found any evidence to support it. He spent the majority of his time alone in the basement. He had used up most of his savings on video editing stuff, claiming it is what he wanted to do as a job after college. He probably bought over $3,000 worth of stuff, software, new computer, camera, etc. I think he was certifiable by this point. He always seemed paranoid. His eating and sleeping habits were atrocious. My parents yelled at him or lectured him almost daily. Things were perfectly bad, and by that I mean not quite bad enough for us to try and get him professional help, but bad enough to make our lives more miserable than ever before. Then one night I finally learned the truth. As told by my brother, I'll finish up after dinner. Damn, he just stopped the story there. What a fucking tease, bro. This was 11 years ago and he never finished a story? What the fuck? Someone said, I know it might be hard for you to finish this story. I would like to hear the end if you are able. And he said, sorry, I'll try again soon. And that was 10 years ago. I guess some sound advice would be, don't watch a video that says how to summon Satan or it will ruin your fucking life. That's fucked up though. Subconsciously, if you watch a video on how to summon the devil or Satan or whatever you want to call it, it's probably gonna like fuck with your mental mind and you're gonna see shit and like act differently or like go manic. So maybe that's what happened to his brother. I'm not too sure. He didn't really give much more detail than what I read. Did you search for this video again? It might be on YouTube. If it works so well, I wonder what the comment sections say. The original poster said, I really haven't, nor do I want to. I mean, a couple of friends have and have even watched it, but I never talked with them about it after. In fact, I don't even think they're in my life anymore. Weird, I doubt YouTube would have it. Maybe, I hope not. Yeah, why are you guys like trying to watch this shit, bro? Fuck that. Just asking for trouble. Alright, and that is going to be it for unexplainable Reddit stories. I would say almost all of these are very scary and fucked up and unexplainable. I try to deduce it in my best way possible, being the investigator and deducer that I am, but at the end of the day, we can only theorize what is truly happening in the minds of these people on Reddit. So that was a whole lot of fun reading these stories. And if you guys are looking for another video about some crazy stories, I made a video on insane asylums and the whole history behind it. So if you guys want to check that out, that video will be on screen. And as always, I will see you in the next one.